Welcome to episode 14, E-Gov Travel System Permissions and Roles. In this episode, you will learn the various permissions of the enterprise E-Gov Travel System and how permissions are assigned to roles. By the end of this episode, you will learn how legislative rules establish the most basic travel roles, how the basic rule-based roles are implemented as E-Gov Travel System user roles, what system permissions are and how they relate to user roles, how risk associated with user roles is managed, why it is important to select only one user role in a user profile, the various ETS user roles and what they can do within the ETS, how ETS administrator permissions are organized within the ETS. The following symbols draw your attention to a particular point or topic. The red circle and exclamation point denotes a very important point. The yellow caution triangle denotes a safety note warning that failure to heed the point will likely cause significant issues. The blue exclamation point and banner denotes a best practice. And the blue binoculars denote a case study used to further explain or provide an example. The most basic travel roles are born from 31 U.S. Codes rules for how funds are managed by the government as well as from the FTR itself, which implements 41 CFR and other laws. These roles are the employee, the approving official, and the certifying officer. Each of these basic travel roles is implemented as an ETS user role, as shown on the following slide. Obtain authorization to travel, request expenses needed and incur, and file timely expense voucher claims are responsibilities of the employee and its ETS user role equivalent, the federal traveler. Approve travel and allow/disallow claimed expenses are the responsibilities of the approving official and its ETS user role equivalent, the federal travel supervisory approver. Certify funds for travel and voucher claims for payment are the responsibilities of the certifying officer and its ETS user role equivalent, the federal travel financial approver. Note that although the contractor's ETS solution applies the term federal traveler to the employee role, the FTR uses this term exclusively for persons who travel on government aircraft covered by OMB Circular A-126. This generalization is likely because one of the methods of selectable methods of transportation is government aircraft. In addition to the three basic roles, the FTR and other laws and regulations establish authority for other types of roles necessary to administer executive branch travel properly. For instance, the FTR's general requirement to establish travel programs and implement e-travel services serves as the basis for having travel system administrators. 5 U.S. Code Section 301. Departmental regulations establishes authority for an agency secretary to establish programs to administer the agency. From this authority, business needs drive additional roles. For instance, funds control through financial operations is a business function, so there is a need to audit vouchers. To enable this, the Federal Voucher Examiner user role was established. In future travel systems, some roles might even be replaced by automation. For instance, post-payment travel voucher review can be performed by robotic process automation, RPAs or bots. Or, as travel IT systems mature, there will be less need for local systems administration. This chart shows the roles established by the FTR and HSS along with their SAP Concur user role equivalents. Pause the video and take a moment to review its contents. For Travel Systems Administrator, the general role of a Travel Systems Administrator is subdivided into 3 separate ETS roles. This allows for system administrator responsibilities and associated permissions to be distributed as needed and reduces overall risk. ETS is a permissions-based system. Permissions are the actions an ETS user may perform. Users are categorized and assigned permissions based on roles. Permissions are assigned to user roles according to need and risk. Permission 1. Create TDY authorization request can be performed by a traveler but not FATA or a certifying officer. Next, Permission 2. Approve TDY authorization requests, is not allowed by a traveler, FATA, or a certifying officer. Permission 3. Certify funding for TDY authorization requests may only be performed by certifying officers. Finally, Permission 4. Changing a user's permissions may only be performed by FATA. The risks associated with roles and associated permissions are generally accepted because programming enables a sufficient degree of control, and risks are managed by restricting permissions to levels, smaller segments of the enterprise ETS. The risk management strategy is articulated in the Enterprise ETS User Management Plan. The ETS system owner reserves the right to immediately act to address risks realized. The risks associated with roles and associated permissions are generally accepted because programming enables a sufficient degree of control, and risks are managed by restricting permissions to levels, smaller segments of the enterprise ETS. The risk management strategy is articulated in the Enterprise ETS User Management Plan. The ETS system owner reserves the right to immediately act to address risks realized. Pause the video and take a moment to review the accompanying graphic. Inexperienced travel system administrators tend to select multiple role memberships under the assumption that doing so will give them even more permissions. While this makes logical sense, it is not the way permissions and roles work. It just causes problems and frustration. The permissions assigned to user role memberships are purposefully and uniquely set up. Some permissions are on while some are off. Assigning more than one role membership to a user will cause the on and off states of the permissions assigned to the roles to conflict with each other. Example, if a permission is on under role A, but off under role B and you've assigned both the role A and role B role membership to the user, then one role's permissions will unpredictably cancel out the others. Exception: a user assigned the role Federal Voucher Examiner may also be assigned the role Federal Traveler so that they have the permissions necessary to prepare their own travel. The most basic role within the ETS is the Federal Traveler role. All users are assigned this role by default when their ETS user profile is created. It can be deselected by a travel system administrator. The ETS automatically recognizes when a user is traveling and will prevent a user from performing approvals, certifications, or IT system administration on their own travel. Some of the activities a federal traveler can perform include updating the ETS user profile, creating TDY authorization requests, reserving FTR-compliant travel services using the ETS online booking engine, including transportation, lodging, and rental cars, creating travel expense voucher claims. Some executive-level employees, because of the nature of their jobs at HHS, require administrative support to arrange their travel. For example, the HHS secretary, the assistant secretary, or an operating division head. The Federal Travel Arranger role has been established for this sort of special circumstance, and this role can act on behalf of another employee if given permission by that employee. This role should not be exploited contrary to the FTR's requirements for employees to administer their own travel. The expectation is that most employees, regardless of rank or position, will administer their own travel. Use of an FTA does not transfer liability for errors or choices made. Liability remains with the employee for allowing another person to arrange their travel. This includes liability arising from the cancellation or disapproval of trips in which non-refundable fares or onerous hotel cancellation policies were accepted. The Federal Voucher Examiner role was designed for those system users who need access to the E-Gov Travel System for analytical work. Common users includes financial technicians, trainers, auditors, investigators, Tier 1 help desk support staff, and systems analysts. Some operating divisions use the role for non-invasive review of documents, reviewers. This role allows the user to view other ETS users' travel authorizations and vouchers. Federal voucher examiners can also be granted access to the business intelligence functionality to run reports. All permissions are set to view only. The user cannot make any changes to a document, make travel reservations, sign or stamp travel documents, or perform any systems administration action. The ETS Notes functionality is not enabled, either. The Federal Financial Travel Approver role is assigned to certifying officers, those employees who certify funds availability for TDY authorizations and those who certify travel expense voucher claims for payment. The user can be granted access to the business intelligence functionality. Employees who are certifying officers will find the Concur Gov mobile application useful for efficiently certifying documents without being tethered to an e-book or desktop computer. The Federal Supervisory Travel Approver role is assigned to those system users who are designated approving officials. This role enables a user to approve TDY authorization requests and to review travel expense voucher claims in order to allow/disallow expenses. The business intelligence functionality is available for those supervisors who wish to use reports in managing the travel of employees. Employees who are designated as approving officials will find the Concur Gov mobile application useful for efficiently approving TDY travel and reviewing claims without being tethered to a notebook or desktop computer. There are 27 permissions specifically assigned to the Base Travel System Administrator role, FATA. To obtain certification as a travel system administrator, a student must demonstrate knowledge of what these permissions allow the user to perform and what changes result in the system if the permissions are applied to change a setting. Competency at using the permissions to obtain travel system administration certification. The Concur Gov mobile application does not have systems administration functionality, so system administration must be performed from a notebook or desktop computer. The 27 FATA permissions can be organized logically and topically under 5 categories, which also correspond to how they are accessed within the ETS. Company admin, permissions associated with setting certain organizational policies. User admin, permissions associated with individual system users. Doc prep admin, permissions associated with DDY authorizations and travel expense vouchers. Electronic processing admin, permissions associated with the routing/processing of travel documents. Miscellaneous, a catch-all category of permissions that don't squarely align to the preceding 4 categories. Remember, just because the ETS can function in a certain way does not give permission or authority to use the function contrary to law and policy. Note: for the following slides, system permissions indicated with a checkmark are included in the live practicum training and may be included in the final exam. The following chart shows various FATA permissions and their accompanying description. Pause the video and take a moment to review its contents. The following chart shows more FATA permissions along with their accompanying descriptions. Pause the video and take a moment to review its contents. This chart shows the FATA permissions along with their respective descriptions. Pause the video and take a moment to review its contents. This chart shows a number of miscellaneous FATA permissions and their respective descriptions. Pause the video and take a moment to review its contents. The ETS is a permissions-based system. What does this mean? A. Users must have permission to have access to the system. B. Roles are assigned permissions that dictate where a user may perform an action in the system. C. Permissions are the actions an ETS user may perform, and users are categorized and assigned permissions based on roles. D. A user is assigned various roles that have permissions associated with them and which allow all system administration actions to be performed. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is C. Permissions are the actions an ETS user may perform, and users are categorized and assigned permissions based on roles. What might happen if a user's ETS role membership has too many roles selected? A. Nothing will happen. B. The on and off states of the permissions assigned to the roles might unpredictably conflict with each other. C. The permissions assigned to the roles will not work because the on and off states will cancel each other out. D. It is not possible to assign more than one role membership to a user. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is B. The on and off states of the permissions assigned to the roles might unpredictably conflict with each other. Which statement correctly describes the management of risks as applied to ETS roles and permissions? A. The risks associated with roles and associated permissions are generally accepted because programming enables a sufficient degree of control. B. Risks are managed by containing risks realized to levels, smaller segments of the enterprise ETS. C. Risk is transferred to operating divisions in the NBS/HIGLIS/UFMS sysadmin role. D. All of the above. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is D. All of the above. True or false? Permissions are assigned to roles according to need and risk. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is true. How were the ETS system administrator permissions organized into 5 categories? A. Logically and topically. B. Philosophically and topically. C. Company admin and tabs admin. D. Spatially and pedagogically. Pause the video, consider your response, and then resume to learn the answer. The correct answer is A. Logically and topically. Congratulations! You have completed this episode. Thank you for participating. The next episode in this series is Episode 15. Contractors and Travel.